Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate that. Today I would like to talk to you about Rage again, because I did many years back a review of this game, and I thought it would be nice to revisit the game since there has been a sequel released recently. So we now have a series of games, and again I wanted to revisit Rage just to see how it holds up so many years down the line. I will also link my original review in the description below, so I'll leave it to you guys to decide if I've made some improvements in my reviews during the years. Rage has what I think still a very good world design. You know, the post-apocalyptic world at least looks very makeshift and just gruesome, basically. And there's some really nice vistas in this game, although a lot of it is window dressing. You don't get to go anywhere you want. This was in fact one of the first games where id Software went into the open world genre. And what kind of disappointed me about this game was that the aesthetic is mostly colored with brown and gray, and it feels boring after a while. You know, your eyes get tired of it. Also, this game runs on an engine that was, back in the day, not very optimized. I still remember people complaining about the texture pop-ins, and that stuff is still here. And the screen tearing is also awful. It's just headache-inducing. It's a very shoddy game engine that this game runs on. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any mods or updates or patches to update the game so that there won't be any pop-ins or screen tearing. So unfortunately, it's still a very just a shitty optimized engine. The game is very light on story. You are from some kind of ark that's crashed on this wasteland, and that's pretty much it. Again, I do like the way the wasteland looks, and also the wacky characters that are actually really well voiced. The voice acting in this game is tongue-in-cheek but convincing. It's really, really nice. Problem with the characters is that they are mostly standing idly as they ask you to do favors for you or run errands, because that's what you will be doing in this game. You are sent out to retrieve something, to kill something, and that stuff gets boring really quick. And it also makes the game world feel lifeless. I mean, all these characters, they are kind of meaningless. They could be robots giving you quests, and it's just, it never feels that this is a wasteland or people are actually living and just living in. So there's a lot of wasted potential, I think, in this game. Again, contrary to popular belief, this is not an open world game. There are stretches of terrain between locations, but again, these stretches of terrain are very linear. You get to drive a buggy that controls quite well, but the whole vehicular combat aspect of the game, because it's not just first-person shooting, but there's also vehicular combat. I think the combat in the buggy is just very mediocre. I pretty much skipped it. When I had to venture out to some kind of location, I just ran past the bandits that are going after you. The locations that you visit are linear corridors, basically, with invisible walls everywhere. So they're pretty much sort of mazes that you go through, shooting bad guys. The actual shooting is still quite competent. It still holds up quite well. It's fairly frantic, really, with these suicidal maniacs coming out of the woodwork everywhere and charging at you. And you don't see that a lot in other games. And this is really, it feels like this is really the base on which id Software build upon to create their the latest iteration of Doom. That was really in your face and just a lot of running and gunning. I do like that. I do like the shooting in Rage, and after a while you get to fight some military dudes as well. That also applies some strategies where they will shoot back at you. They take cover somewhat. They throw a grenade. They will try and run if they're outnumbered, or when the comrades are all dead and there's just one left. He will try to run and go somewhere else. So that's a nice touch. Again, you don't get to see that. It's interesting also that in the last years, the AI of enemies has not really changed that much. Really, over the course of the years, it's still fairly basic, and not and more modern games don't have, I think, more intelligent acting enemies. I mean, in games like Far Cry, for instance, it's basically the same kind of AI where the enemies will somewhat try and look for cover and that sort of thing. But in the end, they will pop out their heads for you to shoot them. Problem with that is that in Rage, shots to the head don't do a lot more damage than shots elsewhere on the body, making the enemies feel very much like bullet sponges. The whole thing feels like a glorified shooting gallery, which can be fun for some time, but ultimately the whole thing feels repetitive. So yeah, I felt compelled at first to replay this game, but I kind of ran out of steam at the end of it, and it's, you know what, it's style over substance, this game. Again, the shooting is stylish, it is fun, but there is hardly any context, there's hardly any incentive to keep playing, and the combat only carries so much of this game. But again, it runs out of steam quite quickly. So that's what I think of Rage. The shooting has stood the test of time a bit, and it's an interesting case study, and you can see that again it's a base on which id Software built their latest Doom games. So you see there's sort of a progression going on there. But and I guess, yeah, that's what they do best. I mean, the frantic shooting where enemies come running at you, in your face, bloody, that sort of thing. That's also in Rage. And that's why I like it to a certain extent. So that's what I think of Rage. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.